Good evening and welcome to Date Night with Martina. My name's Martina Hughes, for those of you who don't know me. I've been doing these date nights since the beginning of isolation in Melbourne, so round about late March, early April. And my intention for Date Night with Martina is to create an opportunity to connect with the wider community out there, to share some tips and some hints that can be supportive in your daily life, also supporting you to live the quality of love, intimacy, and relationship that you desire. And that's applicable whether you're single or in a relationship, because the most important relationship starts with the relationship with yourself. And whatever your relationship with yourself is showing you will give you keys and clues for future relationships. So yeah, I really love working in this space. I've been leading workshops, retreats, private sessions and trainings over the last 15 years, and really love seeing this work make a difference in people's lives. It's amazing how love, intimacy, and relationship is at the heart of everything we do. Every human being who I've met um, has a desire for deeper quality connection, stronger intimacy, more fulfilling relationships, or more meaningful relationships. And yet, for most of our lives, we don't address these topics in any detail. We don't study or have education in these areas that are so critical to our mental and emotional health and well-being. And so it's my delight and absolute pleasure to share about these topics in the hopes that it inspires you at home to make even one small change. Even if you make one small change each week, at the end of the year, that's 52 small changes. You're going to be a transformed person. So thank you for joining me. Hi Gail, lovely to have you here. If anybody else is watching and wants to say hello, please do drop a comment in the chat box. I love reading your comments and hearing how you're feeling today. It helps to create that sense of community and that it's not just me sitting here talking and speaking into the void. It is sometimes a little uncomfortable and a little vulnerable sitting here because I have no idea how many people are watching, who's watching, or even what your responses are. When I'm facilitating a live event, then there's the opportunity to see people's faces and body language and expression. But this here is a whole lot more vulnerable. So yeah, if you want to say hello in the chat box and let me know how you're feeling tonight, I love to hear from you. Tonight's topic is all about how we respond, how we use our feelings in challenging times. Now, of course, we're living right now in unprecedented times. We're living in times of extreme challenge. Here in Australia and many other parts of the world, the year started with significant bushfires, and then we went from the bushfires to COVID-19. Now I'm aware that some parts of America are experiencing bushfires again. There's a lot of political unrest around the world. There's a lot of people feeling extremely challenged and with good cause for feeling challenged. And some of the not so great news about this is that we're actually astrologically, we're coming into an even more intense time in this last part of the year than what we've seen already. And obviously what we've seen already has been pretty goddamn intense already. So if it's going to become even more intense, I feel like we need to have some tools and some resources available to really be able to hold and nourish ourselves through the intensity. In the space of intensity, in the space of external challenge, and a lot of people I speak to here in Victoria, Australia at the moment are extremely challenged because we've been in lockdown now for 6 months of one version or another. I'm in regional Victoria, so it's not as extreme here as it is for people in Melbourne. But I know a lot of people in Melbourne who are really struggling because there is a sense of feeling out of control, feeling that their choices for life are being taken out of their hands because of the lockdown conditions. And so when the external circumstances have us feel like we're out of control, there can be a tendency to get highly activated. There can be a tendency for all of our patterns to flush up to the surface. And so instead of reacting and acting habitually out of our patterns, there's an opportunity to go, what if I could learn something from my patterns? What if I could use this particular tension, this particular time, this dynamic to learn how to live a little differently? For me, for the last 12 years, but in some ways the last 20 years, I've been extremely dedicated to unraveling my personal habits and patterns and to living with more vulnerability, more flow, more openness. And I still have days where control jumps up and bites me and I'm acting out of all the old patterns. But there's a lot more spaciousness, love, and grace available when I can make the choice to live from a deeper and more aligned place inside rather than being in reaction with my patterns and habits. And so we'll have a look at that topic in more detail tonight. Like, how can you start to make friends with your feelings? How can you start to be curious about your patterns and your habits so that instead of acting out towards others or being, pissed off for like 6 months about the way society is, how can you find your own spaciousness, your own flow amongst all of that? And that doesn't mean denying your feelings. It very much includes allowing your feelings, having your feelings, and letting yourself see what your feelings can teach you. Hi Sherry, lovely to have you here, and I'm curious about whether Jasmine is sleeping or whether she's awake and feeding at the moment. Sherry's up in the Byron area, and she just recently had a new baby whose name is Jasmine Grace, and she's a very, very delightful little girl. So I hope you and the whole family are doing well, Sherry. Greg says, hi Martina, he's just had a 2-hour massage, so feeling very chill. Awesome, awesome. And Greg's in Queensland, so obviously in Queensland you can have massages at the moment, but here in Victoria, no massages right now. But do feel free to keep dropping comments or thoughts that might come up for you during the session. Let's do a drop-in meditation and then we'll move more deeply into the topic for tonight. Hades has come to join. He's actually just sniffing where Panna was sitting this afternoon. He's so funny. It's like as if he forgets what she smells like, but he'll make his way. I think he'll make his way over to the green cushion. That's currently his favourite spot. Anyway, into the drop-in meditation. So just closing your eyes and taking a deep breath in through your nose and out through your mouth. And as you're taking deep breaths, starting to release any tension in your body. Releasing any tension in your forehead, your cheeks, your jaw. Releasing any tension in your head. Releasing any tension in the neck, the shoulders, the back, the chest. Breathing right down through your back, through your belly. Releasing tension as you go. Releasing tension through the belly, through the buttocks, the pelvic floor, the genitals. Releasing tension through your legs, through your feet. Letting your body relax as deeply as you can relax in this moment. And letting go of your to-do list, letting go of any chores, letting go of any of the shoulds and coulds and maybes for your day. And just coming into this moment, right here, right now. There's nowhere for you to go, nothing for you to do. In this moment, simply listening to my voice and following your breath. Breathing in through the nose and out through the mouth. Letting everything else in your life fade away into the background. Your only concern is this moment, right here, right now. And in this moment, notice how you're feeling. Whatever your feelings are, whether you're sad, frustrated, relaxed, happy, allowing space for your feelings. And notice how when you allow your feelings, there's nothing you have to do with it. There's no tension, there's no stress. If you simply allow your feelings to be there. If you're exhausted, let yourself be exhausted. If you're angry, let yourself be angry. If you're sad, let yourself be sad. Just allowing your feelings, giving them some space, and noticing how when we give our feelings space, it often reveals something else. It often reveals another layer. Allowing your feelings and allowing spaciousness around your feelings. And then, as you're ready, just bringing your attention back to the Facebook Live space, having a gentle stretch, a little wriggle, and opening your eyes. And this is why people say you should never work with children or animals, because I suggested that Hades was going to sit on the green cushion, and instead he decided to sit on that side. It's like as if he knows, don't let me be predictable, cat. I'll mix it all up. So do drop into the chat box what feelings you noticed during the meditation. What was happening in your body? I noticed for me I was feeling very relaxed, open, and a deep sense of content and spaciousness. I noticed there's a message from Nina saying, I'll be back later. Didn't know we had date night and couldn't schedule, but we'll watch later. Awesome, awesome. Thanks, Nina. I hope you enjoy when you watch later. Louise has sent me a little cat emoji and a heart and a star. Very cute. So watching our relationship to our feelings and becoming aware of how we handle times of conflict and stress. Because one of the things I've noticed is that there's a tendency for struggle to happen when we fight with reality. Excuse me, I ate my dinner really quickly before starting. When we fight with reality, we get locked into struggle, and I'll expand on that in a moment. But also when we deny our feelings, we also get locked into struggle. So learning to accept reality and accept our feelings is a pathway to overcoming the struggle. It's one thing to accept and appreciate that we're living in difficult and challenging times. It's another thing to spend every day railing against that and fighting it and being angry and pissed off with the world and getting locked up in our feeling body. So what I'll be encouraging you towards is being able to accept how things are right now, and how they are is challenging and somewhat restrictive, and also to allow whatever our feelings are in response to that. So I'll expand on those things in a moment. Sherry says, thanks for asking. Jasmine is drifting into sleep with Paul, and Adele is slowly finishing her vegetables, and I'm expressing milk. Feeling okay in this moment, but pretty much feeling all feelings each day. It's a roller coaster. Yeah, of course, having a newborn is going to be a massive roller coaster of feelings. So keep on allowing the space. And yes, hello to Adele, finishing off your vegetables. I hope you're loving having a little sister. Gail says, my mind wandered a little with thoughts of the day. I do feel relaxed, and I felt tingling in my body when I finally dropped in. Beautiful, beautiful. So yeah, to not accept reality means that we're always looking for a way out of the current situation. And it can look like fantasizing about how things are going to go back to normal when all this is over. It can look like getting frantic, making plans for the future. It can look like complaining on social media, complaining to friends constantly, and being pissed off with the government, pissed off at the powerlessness of the situation. But to really accept it means that there's a sense of going, this is how it is right now. You know, me as a human being, in all my vulnerability, I'm actually powerless to change the global situation. Now, that doesn't mean that I don't take action. It doesn't mean that I don't support causes that I'm passionate about. It doesn't mean that I don't sign a petition that I feel in alignment with. There can still be that taking a stand for the things that you feel strongly about. But often being in fighting with reality means that you'll spend time reading the news every spare minute of the day and obsessing over the details, obsessing over what's happening and trying to figure out how it could be different. Or you'll spend copious amounts of time of researching data, trying to figure out like when it's all going to be over. And the truth is right now that we really don't know. And as humans, it's very, very uncomfortable to not know what's going to happen next. And when we don't know what's going to happen next, we often go into control mode. And so control mode can look like controlling our own feelings, can look like trying to control other people's feelings, can look like trying to control our family dynamic, control our work environment. Any of those attempts at control, though, are futile. Because there are very, very few things in our life that we can truly have any control over. The things that we do have control over are our own behaviours and our own responses. And when we accept that that's all we truly have any control over, then we get to choose how we want to use our time and our energy. Do we want to use our time and our energy obsessing over news and researching data and trying to work out what the end point is? Or should we use that time and energy for loving self-care? Can we use that, our time and our energy, to build a stronger internal resource? And part of being more strongly resourced internally is having regular practices of self-love and self-care. One of the components of self-love is listening to our feelings. I find that often when people become obsessive with news or obsessive with sharing things on social media, they're disconnected from their feelings. And there's a lot of this right now. There's a lot of it on social media where people are arguing with each other, people are defending their points of view, people are, posting, their version of data and facts, and this is the way it is. But a lot of that takes people out of being present to their own vulnerability, being present to the place where they don't have the answers either. The data can't tell us exactly when Melbourne is going to come out of stage 4 restrictions. We right now, with, let's say, the political situation in the US, nobody knows which way that's going to go, which party's going to come into power. There are bushfires happening in the US. Nobody knows which way that's going to play out, how long until they're resolved. We're possibly heading into another dry summer here in Australia. Will there be more bushfires? Won't there be? We don't know. And so learning to be okay with I don't know, for me, it's like one of the high-level Jedi skills, because it's something that my mentor has encouraged me to develop for a very long time. And it's really only been possibly the last 2 years where I've had a good grasp of the value of being okay with I don't know. Whenever I'm holding on to certainty, I'm trying to justify my position, I'm trying to control my circumstances, there's a strong chance that I'm hiding my fear, I'm hiding my sadness, I'm hiding my vulnerability. And it's a very, very human response to try and clutch on to certainty, to try and believe that we have the answers. But it's very difficult to have the answers when we're living in unprecedented times. What I'm noticing with a lot of people I'm speaking to at the moment, both friends and clients, is that when we're out of control, when we're living in these unprecedented times, our patterns start to get flushed up very strongly. And as our patterns get flushed up, then there's a tendency to want to blame somebody else. It's my partner's fault, it's my kid's fault, it's because I'm homeschooling, it's the government's fault, it's the pandemic's fault, it's somebody else's fault, it's my friend's fault, it's my fault, I'm a terrible person. So the blame can either go out there to everybody else, or it comes in here and turns into like, I'm wrong, I'm bad, there's something the matter with me. But really learning to be with our feelings is to go, I can feel myself wanting to react. And I had this play out just a few days ago with Rod. I could feel myself swirling internally after the new Victorian announcements for the next phases. Could feel myself swirling internally and kind of wanting to blame Rod for the fact that I felt uncomfortable and I was swirling and was kind of looking for what he'd done wrong. And the more I sat with those feelings, the more I came to see it's like, yeah, I feel vulnerable. I don't know when I will next hold a retreat. I don't know right now about my ongoing source of income because my training is coming to a close. I can't hold retreats. There's a whole lot of impactful factors right now for me personally. My own space where I journey regularly, Satori that I usually go to each year. I don't know whether I'll be able to go this year because of the interstate border restrictions. So there was a lot that I was swirling about at the beginning of the week. And I wanted to project that uncomfortable feeling outside, to make it somebody else's fault, and in particular to make it Rod's fault. But what I know is that whenever that's alive in me, whenever there's that part of wanting to make it his fault, that's time for me to go inside and just be curious with myself. Like, what is it that I'm feeling? What is it that I'm uncomfortable about? Another common strategy is distraction, and distraction could look like watching TV or reading books, or it being on the phone, or having meaningless conversations. So if I go into distraction mode, that's another clue to be like, oh, let's get curious about what I'm really feeling here. And what I came to tune into was, Yeah, I feel vulnerable because I don't know. Just like everybody else, I don't know right now what the future looks like. Ferdos has just said to add into the mix the mess that is Brexit. Yeah, so in England, they've got their own challenges politically. I know that Brazil and other areas are having significant political challenges. China, Hong Kong, so many parts of the world have significant political challenge right now. And so we're really living in this time where we're being invited to become more aware. Now, not everybody has the luxury, the resources, the space in their life to become more aware. People with less resources available, who are really struggling financially, who are really struggling to keep their lives together, may find that the possibility of waking up right now is not available to them. But for those of us who do have a certain amount of privilege and awareness in our lives and are a little more comfortable, this opportunity now really gives us the chance to go, what do I do when I'm faced with discomfort? Do I go into reaction mode and blame everyone else and fight and scream and go into distraction mode? Or do I have a look? Do I get curious about who I am and how I want to show up in this kind of space? If you're watching and you have any insights as to how you handle this current environment, I'd love to hear from you. Share about what are your strategies when things feel difficult or challenging. Awareness is really the first step. So what I mean by awareness, it's noticing. Notice when you feel blame coming up. Notice when you feel reactive. Notice when your triggers are really alive and you're wanting to point fingers. Notice when the self-critical voice comes up really strong. If any of those things are happening, learning to use those things as a clue to go, I'm highly distractible, I'm highly unsettled, I'm in a very strong blamey mode, I'm super self-critical right now. Whatever your things are, notice them. Because the more you fine-tune your awareness, the more you notice those things and learn to notice them quickly, you can come back to center to go, okay, there I am. Not to blame yourself, not to criticize yourself, but to go, there I am, going into the old habit, going into the old pattern. And then the tricky part after the awareness is to soften. Because when those patterns jump up, there's going to be tension. There'll be tension in the jaw, tension in the neck, the shoulders, the back, the groin, the buttocks, the pelvic floor. So the first thing to do, notice the patterns up and then soften. How can I soften? How can I relax the tension? Because when you relax the tension, you start to create some space inside so that your body is not poised to fight or poised to run or poised to hide, whatever your strategy is. So it's like relaxing just creates more internal spaciousness and gives you the opportunity to have choice about what happens next rather than going into reactivity and habit. And then from that place of choice, from that spaciousness, learning to be curious. And I'll speak to curiosity a little more in a second. I can see that Greg has shared a comment here saying, I like to take challenges on, feel into them, work with them, process through, and then find that I will sleep for 12 hours straight. That's amazing. I know a few people who love sleeping as a way of helping them process what's alive. It's not part of my strategy, unfortunately. I often wish I had that one, but I'm more likely to not be able to sleep when I'm processing something. But good luck to you, Greg, for having that available as an option. Yeah, so then being curious about what's alive. So that can be as simple as saying to yourself, I notice there's a lot of blame alive in me. Why am I feeling so blamey? What am I angry about? What am I afraid of? What's scaring me? What am I feeling vulnerable about right now? Being curious can be having a conversation with yourself, and sometimes it's useful even to have that conversation out loud, just to hear your own words being spoken out loud. Or you can do that in a journal. I journal most days, and often find in the process of journaling, I uncover feelings that I didn't know were there. So journaling is a great companion for me for getting in touch with feelings that I may have hidden or feelings that I might be avoiding or projecting outside. So yeah, awareness is the first step, creating spaciousness, being curious, and then giving ourselves permission to feel our feelings. So feeling our feelings is not always about dumping the feelings onto somebody else. It's not always about having the argument or having the heated discussion. Like I could sit here now and breathe fear through my body and just tune in to, like, how does fear feel? And let myself just feel how with fear my body shrinks a little, my voice shrinks a little. There's like a bit of a shiver that wants to go through me. And so fear kind of does this. So feeling the feelings can sometimes be just this really deeply personal, introspective process. Equally with feeling anger could be and noticing how with anger I feel a little bigger, I feel a little more deeply in my body, I feel a bit expanded, and a bit of a roar that wants to come with the anger, and the energy moves quite fast with the anger. It feels like fire inside of me. Whereas the fear feels a little more like cold. So feeling our feelings sometimes doesn't even have words or a story to go with it. Oftentimes we look for a story to go with our feelings, and sometimes that is useful, but there are other times where it's just about letting the current of those feelings move through the body. And then even to be curious, like, if I'm angry, is it because I've crossed my own boundary? If I am angry, is it because there's something I haven't followed through on? If I'm angry, is it because I felt disrespected by somebody else? And so sometimes there'll be an action to be taken out of acknowledging the feeling. So we might acknowledge the feeling, But then it might be like, oh, actually, yeah, I feel angry because I felt really disrespected in that conversation with a friend, or actually I didn't honour my boundaries and I gave too much of my time and attention to that particular situation. So that's something I'll need to remedy in future. Or perhaps I need to go and have a conversation about the situation where I felt disrespected. But if I've already given myself permission to feel my feelings, I then don't need to dump those feelings onto the other person. I can simply share from a place of, yeah, I felt quite disrespected when that happened. That really wasn't okay. Or the conversation might be, yeah, I gave too much time and energy there, and if you feel me pulling back, it's simply because I need to take care of myself. So then there's no blame, there's no accusation. It's simply acknowledging our own feeling without any charge or without any leakiness on it. And so learning how to be okay with feeling uncomfortable too, because having those conversations can be uncomfortable. And the more we learn how to be okay with feeling uncomfortable, the more we expand in life. But if we're always looking for comfort, we end up making ourselves really, really small, because there's only going to be a small number of situations in which we're always comfortable. But when we learn, it's like, oh, this is a difficult conversation to have with my friend, but I can do it. This is a difficult conversation to have with my partner, and I feel uncomfortable, but I can do it from a place of no blame, simply sharing what's alive for me. Oh, this is a difficult situation at the moment, not knowing you know, when I go back to regular work. But I'm learning how to rest in the discomfort of not knowing. So the more we learn how to rest in the discomfort of not knowing, the more we expand our emotional capacity, our energetic capacity, and the capacity we have to process things through our body. Sherry says that she has a tendency to avoid and deflect. With dry humour and sarcasm, I can be dismissive too. It's great awareness to have, Sherry, of what you do in that regard. Selena says, I like to have reflexive time with journaling, free flow writing in an open book left on my table, and or a big walk or bike ride along the beach, nature, to expand the mind through somatic connection. Beautiful, Selena. Very, very helpful strategies. And Selena says, also to release through free flow movement with music to allow energy to flow. Awesome. I also do a very similar practice and it's very powerful. Yeah. Gail says, I'm using this time to have a quieter lifestyle. When I'm not working, I'm spending time walking out in nature, more sleeping, resting, and I have been journaling more too lately. It's okay to feel frustrated at times, giving self-compassion for all the uncertainty right now. I've gotten through tough times before, this too shall pass. So, so true, Gail. It will pass, and yeah, we have, all of us had tough and difficult times. So having that energetic muscle of trusting that I will get through this, having that energetic and emotional capacity to go, this will pass. That's a great, great formula for accepting reality rather than fighting with it. And being able to use our feelings as clues. Like, I know a lot of people are feeling very, very restless right now because they don't have the same level of distraction available. But perhaps even that restlessness is an indication that your mind needs more stimulation. Perhaps there's something new you can learn online, or perhaps it's an indication that your physical body needs more exercise, or perhaps it's being creative about connection, whether it's connecting with friends on Zoom or Skype or long phone conversations, but being creative and bringing variety into our life. For most of us right now, yes, we're at home, but how can you create variety? Can you sit and work in a different room? Can you dance in your lounge room at midday each day? One of my personal practices, which is similar to what Selena described, is to allow a space each day for free-flowing movement and expression. So putting on music that I don't know, and then with that music just giving my body permission to move, to express, to feel, to move energy, to make sounds. And for me, that's a form of internal housekeeping. By doing that, I keep myself emotionally and energetically clean so that things don't build up inside. I just saw that Panna has come to join us. She's so cute. Let's see if I can move this and show you where she is. There she is, snuggling in with Hades. Oh, Rod calls them cookies and cream. They're the cutest pair. As you can tell, I love my cats. Panda and I also play chasing games around the house. That's part of my other current strategy for variety and mixing things up is playing chasing games with her around the house. Also, when we feel uncomfortable, when we feel restless, we need to prioritize self-care. I know it's common for self-care to fall off the list in difficult times, but it's actually in difficult times that we need self-care the most. So looking at what is it that you do for self-care? Do you take time to tune in to your feelings? Do you take time to do things that feel nourishing and good for yourself? It could be a movement and expression practice. It could be a simple walk around the block. It could be a longer walk. It could be a bath. It could be journaling. It could be meditation. If you don't currently meditate, you might learn to meditate. There's a lot of different teachers and courses offering online learn to meditate or learn anything at this moment. So finding ways to have some variety, to bring in some active self-care, to listen to your feelings, to find ways to healthily express your feelings. And then if you need more support, to be active about seeking support. There are people like me offering Zoom sessions right now that are incredibly supportive for getting in touch with your feelings, for supporting you to work through the things that you're most challenged by. And also sometimes the things that are arising, the patterns from the past, they could be patterns that you've lived with for 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 or more years. And it can be very difficult to unravel those patterns on our own. And working with somebody who is well experienced with unraveling patterns, who has a certain kind of awareness to tune in on a deeper level, can support you to strengthen your internal resources. So then you really come to be able to use this period in time for strengthening who you are, for unraveling your patterns, for accepting your feelings, for accepting reality, and trusting that there is a bigger picture at play. There is something here for all of us that is an opportunity to grow, that is an opportunity to learn, And if you're somebody who is experiencing really strong trauma or challenge right now, then you will need professional support. You will need somebody to hold you in working through that trauma, the high level of reactions that are happening. And that's where you really need to tune in to yourself to figure out who and what is the right form of care for you right now. For me, yeah, self-love needs to include some form of daily self-care. And the reason daily self-care is so important is because it's doing things every day that build up those energetic muscles. So 5 minutes of self-care every day is much more valuable than 1 hour once a week. When we do something every day, the consistency helps to create internal safety, internal security, that capacity of depth of knowing and feeling ourselves. It also gives us a really strong indicator of when we are rested in ourselves and when we're going into reactive habitual mode. And having that space cultivated through our self-care means that we can have the awareness to make a choice. We can have the awareness to be more curious and to soften in times of tension rather than becoming more constricted, more contracted, more uptight. And so self-care is an essential part of self-love. Also, listening to our feelings is an essential part of self-love, and responding to the things that we need. Sometimes we let go of the things that we need when challenge is high in life, but taking care of your needs, eating well, exercising, having mental stimulation, having good emotional connection, all those things are high quality needs that really should be factored in at a time like this. And then reaching out to get the support that you need. I'm just in the process of creating a self-love kit, which has some beautiful self-love tools in it, physical tools for your daily self-love rituals, and it also has some other electronic tools and support. So I think I will be releasing that self-love kit within the next 2 weeks. So if you need some more support or direction around self-love and what daily rituals can look like for you, keep an eye out for when I release the self-love kit. Also coming up next week, I've got the Women's Circle that happens once a month on a Tuesday. That's Tuesday the 15th of September. And next Tuesday we're looking at power and expression. So how we access our feminine power and how we express our feminine power. So if you're interested in the Women's Circle, send me a message and let me know. And also Date Night for Singles will be coming up at the end of the month. The date for that is the 26th of September. So do let me know if you're interested. Or you can just go to the website martinahughes.com to book in for Date Night for Singles. We have a good number of spots available at the moment for both single men and single women. Just click back to my document to see if there's anything else I wanted to share with you tonight. Yeah, here's Hades. I think he wants to get on my lap, or he wants to get on the computer. Say hello, Hades. He's busy now, distracted. Yeah, I think the important things from tonight's call is to learn how to relax, to be present with your body, present with your feelings in times of conflict, distress, challenge, and to learn to be okay with your feelings, to learn to be okay with vulnerability and not knowing what the answers are. That will give you a whole lot more peace, freedom, love, and acceptance in your life. And cat about to walk on the keyboard. Just diverted him. So thank you for joining me. If there's a topic you'd like to hear me speak about next date night, do let me know. I also have another random event which will come up in a couple of weeks' time on a Wednesday night, but I'll announce that next week. But I have loved sharing with you. I hope this sharing supports you. Just remember to be aware, feel your feelings, be curious, create space inside, and to be able to have the conversations you need to have. Have a good practice of self-care so that you can utilize this time to strengthen your internal relationship, but also to strengthen your relationship with others. And that instead of waiting for things to go back to normal, you can learn how to accept, embrace, and even enjoy what's available for you right now. Have a good Wednesday evening, and I will see you next week.